it's finally done. The Rasmus Andersson era comes to an end in Calgary as he heads off to the Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of people have a lot of thoughts on the return, so let's talk about it. So, Rasmus Andersson is a Calgary Flame no more as he heads off to Vegas for a first-round pick, a conditional second-round pick, Zach Whitecloud, and a defensive prospect that none of you have ever heard of before. So, in terms of the return, it's a decent run. It's not a great one. The first is going to be a late first. The second in 28 turns into a first if they win the Stanley Cup. A lot of whatevers. So, it's not the highest potential picks that you could get out of this. But still, I think getting some extra draft capital is good for an organization that around the industry, it's pretty well assumed they've crushed the last two drafts. So giving these guys more draft ammunition is what you want to do. And it was making the best of a difficult situation, I think, to be able to get those, but to be able to still get a first and a second out of this, and then a couple of other pieces as well, I think that's really strong work from Craig Conroy and from the Flames. So, again, is it the return that is worth a Rasmus Andersson? Probably not. Is it the return that is worth a couple of months of Rasmus Andersson, even though we're all kind of assuming the extension's coming? Yeah. It is. So I think it's a fine trade for Conroy. Like Weeb sounds like he's just a guy. He's a big guy, but sounds like just a guy. And I think you'll probably flip Whitecloud. Like they're saying all the right things. No, we want to see what he is, how he fits on the knocking things over. How he fits on the penalty kill and all of those sorts of things. Because again, they're not going to just come out and say, "Oh no, we already told him rent don't buy. He's living in a hotel. We didn't even bother getting like an apartment." No, he's hotels, man. He is. We barely we didn't even stitch his jersey. We just kind of whatever. Yeah, no, trading him because then you lose all your leverage, right? So I feel like Calgary is going to flip him and add a little bit more into that trade tree. They're already very familiar with the teams who need right shot defensemen. So the one thing I do think that it helps with Calgary is that you don't have to rush Parekh back in. It's not, okay, well, Zane, you had one good game in the A, and Jake Bean just played 25 minutes last night, so we kind of need you, buddy. Come on down. It's not going to be that. You allow him time to get ready. You're not putting Brustevich in a spot that he is not ready for, and you can kind of ease into it a little bit. So that's what Whitecloud is with the Flames for, essentially. Obviously, the big part of this was the contract extension held everything up. We're all assuming he's likely signing in Vegas. That's not breaking news to anyone. But, Vegas knows that too. And yeah, again, we think he's going to sign, but he wasn't signing anywhere else, and Vegas doesn't have to do a trade, I'm seeing trade news coming in on my phone. Vegas doesn't have to do a trade just to make it feel better for Flames fans. They're going with what the market dictates, and once he said he wasn't signing anywhere, then there's no reason for Vegas to up their bid. They still paid, I think, a pretty penny to upgrade from Whitecloud to Rasmus Andersson, but they're in a spot where, yeah, they can give up a couple of picks on the gamble that this works out because A, they have a pretty good chance of keeping him anyway. B, they're in a spot where they could be a Rasmus Andersson away from a Stanley Cup, or at least a very long playoff run in the Western Conference, where Boston, that doesn't guarantee you anything out there. Detroit, same thing. LA, same thing, because Vegas is there. So they're in a spot where they can be a little bit more aggressive on this, but they aren't just going to give you a better offer just because we assume he's going to sign and you want to make the Flames look a little bit better. They are working in the market that has been established now, and even with all the whatevers that are going on, the Flames have no leg to stand on when it comes to any of that. So, no, it wasn't the offer you should get for that player. But I think it was a good offer for the situation that this was in. From a Flames standpoint, this whole thing to me, and I said this on the radio out here, this whole thing to me signifies an organizational failure. Not that they traded him now. They had to, right? But that part's the failure. Rasmus Andersson is the type of player that you win with. He can fit any role on your blue line and do it effectively. And it can be in the regular season when he's staring down fans, but we have seen him play some very good hockey at playoff time. Now with the Flames, it hasn't been that much, but he has played a little bit in the playoffs, and he's done so very effectively. And the fact that this team is in a spot where they need to move on from him is this team paying for the sins of the past. And the fact that you can have this guy on your team and not be able to say, you'll still be good when we're good again, is, I think, a failure of where this team was. Not where they're going, because I do think that they are in the right direction with at least progressing in a rebuild, kind of, and all of that. But the fact that it took so long to get to things progressing in the right way, that you have now outweighted a guy that you win with, that in another world, in another alternate timeline, that dude's wearing a C for you, and not the logo one, like the one up here where you get the captain thing. That he's that. He is that type of a guy, and the fact that you are in a spot where the only logical move is to trade him, probably 85 cents on the dollar, then that just is, again, the latest in a long line of failures from this team that they are now trying to dig their way out of. So it again, it is another example of not picking a direction quickly enough and not getting enough for him. And now they have a couple of opportunities to correct that with Coleman and with Kadri, and I'm hoping that they have learned those lessons. So those are my thoughts. What did you guys think on the Andersson trade? Should the Flames have been able to get more for Rasmus Andersson? And am I being a little bit too hard on the organization? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you miss any of the show, or you just are like, hey, this is fun, I should listen to this more often, well, you can do that. It is available as a podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Couch Potato Diary.